In the entertainment world, fame can rise like a rocket, and fall even faster. And few stories in Thai BL have illustrated that reality as dramatically as the story of Bild Jakapan Putta. In 2023, his career seemed to collapse almost overnight. Headlines, accusations, and viral posts turned him from a rising star into one of the most controversial figures in the industry. For many fans watching at the time, it felt like the verdict had already been decided, not in a courtroom but in the court of public opinion. But now, in 2026, the legal story has taken a very different turn. And that raises a complicated question: if the law clears your name, can the industry, and the public, ever truly forget? Today, we're breaking down Bild Jakapan's journey from scandal to legal vindication, what has changed, what hasn't, and where his career stands now. To understand the present, we need to go back to the controversy that reshaped everything. In June 2023, a wave of alleged private messages began circulating online. These messages, said to be conversations between Bild and his former partner, spread rapidly across social media platforms. The content shocked fans. Some of the texts appeared threatening. Others contained harsh and insulting remarks, not only about people close to him, but also about colleagues and public figures. Particularly painful for many fans were messages that seemed to criticize Bible Jakapan Sumetikul, who had been Bild's on-screen partner in Kin Portia the series and someone who had publicly supported him. The leaks didn't stop there. Posts circulated claiming he had spoken negatively about co-stars like Mile Phaktham Ramsathong and Apo Natawin Watanajati, criticized production staff, and even mocked international celebrities such as Jackson Wang and Kai. Whether people believed the messages immediately or not, the damage was swift. Public opinion shifted at lightning speed. Bild issued an apology at the time, expressing regret for words attributed to him, but the storm had already gathered too much force. He resigned from his agency. He lost acting opportunities, including a role in the planned BL drama 4 Minutes. And relationships within the industry appeared to fracture almost overnight. In a matter of weeks, the narrative surrounding him transformed. He went from a rising star, to a cautionary tale. For nearly 2 years, that narrative remained largely unchanged. Online discussions treated the allegations as established fact. The story hardened, repeated so often that it became part of the collective memory of the fandom. But legal processes move at a different pace than social media. Courts take time, evidence is examined carefully, claims are tested, not retweeted. And in December 2025, a turning point arrived. A defamation case connected to one of the accounts that had circulated damaging materials reached its conclusion. In a court-mandated statement, the individual behind the account admitted under oath to fabricating and spreading false chat logs intended to damage Bild's reputation. The confession was significant. According to the court's findings, some of the most widely shared messages, those depicting him insulting colleagues and partners, were not authentic. The individual accepted legal responsibility and agreed to financial compensation for the harm caused. For many observers, this verdict challenged assumptions that had been treated as unquestionable truth for years. But the situation was more complex than a single case. Because even before the leaked chats, another major controversy had erupted. In January 2023, Hoi Pacharapa Chaichua publicly accused Bild of physical abuse, financial exploitation, and infidelity. The allegations spread rapidly, painting a picture of a deeply toxic relationship. These accusations had an enormous impact. Sponsors withdrew. Projects disappeared. Public sentiment turned sharply against him. However, legal proceedings later began to reshape that story as well. In May 2023, court documents revealed that certain claims, such as pregnancy allegations, were withdrawn or acknowledged as inaccurate. Over time, investigations into other accusations failed to produce evidence sufficient for criminal conviction. By early 2026, the Thai legal system had formally dismissed criminal charges of assault and financial exploitation. The courts concluded that while the relationship itself had been toxic and complicated, the specific criminal allegations lacked the evidentiary foundation required under law. This distinction is important. A relationship can be unhealthy. Arguments can be real, but criminal guilt requires proof beyond accusation. And in this case, that standard was not met. Still, legal innocence does not erase everything. To remain fair and objective, it's important to acknowledge that not all controversies surrounding Bild were fabricated. Some of his old social media posts from years earlier were real. These included jokes and comments that many people found offensive, including misogynistic and homophobic remarks made long before his rise to fame. Posts from 2014 and 2015 resurfaced and sparked renewed criticism, particularly because the BL industry emphasizes inclusivity and representation. These posts clashed sharply with the values many fans associate with the genre. Bild publicly apologized for these statements and acknowledged responsibility for them. But apologies do not automatically restore trust. And that is where the situation becomes emotionally complicated. Because the legal system evaluates evidence and determines guilt or innocence under the law, public trust operates under very different rules. Trust is slower to rebuild, and easier to lose. As of 2026, the aftermath is still visible. Many former colleagues have not publicly reconnected with him. Industry dynamics have shifted. New actors have emerged. New series have captured the spotlight. Entertainment, like nature, rarely stands still. This leaves Bild in a rare position. Legally cleared, yet professionally isolated in many ways. His fan base remains loyal, and in some cases fiercely protective. For them, the past few years represent an example of how online narratives can spiral beyond truth, destroying reputations before facts are established. But for other fans and professionals, the issue is broader than legal verdicts. They see a pattern of behavior, past comments, controversies, and public discomfort that makes them hesitant to embrace his return. Two groups, looking at the same events, and reaching very different conclusions. So what has Bild been doing instead? Rather than returning immediately to mainstream television, he has taken a different path. He now operates independently under his own company, Bild Your Love for You. Without the backing of major studios, he has focused on areas where independence is more possible: music, fan events, and international collaborations. In 2024, he appeared in the Chinese miniseries Infinity and later worked on vertical dramas released through platforms like Douyin and YouTube. These projects suggested a strategic shift toward the Chinese entertainment market, where audience dynamics and industry networks differ from those in Thailand. By the end of 2024, he held a sold-out concert and continued releasing music through 2025. He also began attending international events, including appearances connected to promotions for films such as Legend of the Condor Heroes. These moves indicate a deliberate reinvention. Not a return to the old career, but the construction of a new one. And then, in January 2026, he made another decision that drew public attention. He entered temporary monkhood in Thailand. For those unfamiliar with Thai culture, temporary ordination is a long-standing tradition. Many men enter monkhood for a short period to study, reflect, and make merit for their families. It is not necessarily a retreat from life, but a pause, a moment of stillness in a noisy world. During this time, participants shave their heads, wear saffron robes, and follow strict monastic rules, including abstaining from entertainment and public performance. For a public figure whose life had been defined by noise, controversy, and scrutiny, the symbolism of silence was striking. So where does this story leave us now? Should the industry give him another chance? Or has the moment simply passed? The answer depends largely on how one views accountability, forgiveness, and change. For his supporters, Bild has already paid an enormous price. They point to lost opportunities, damaged reputation, and years of stalled momentum for allegations that courts ultimately rejected. From this perspective, continuing to exclude him feels less like justice and more like a permanent sentence. But others see it differently. They argue that forgiveness is not an obligation, and that industries, especially ones built around representation and inclusivity, have the right to choose the values they want to uphold. Both perspectives contain truths, and both reflect the complicated reality of human judgment. Because people are rarely entirely innocent or entirely guilty in the moral sense. Real lives are messier than courtroom verdicts or trending hashtags. Perhaps the deeper lesson here is not about one actor alone. It's about how information spreads in the digital age, how narratives form, how quickly certainty can replace curiosity, Social media moves at the speed of emotion, while truth often travels at the speed of paperwork. And by the time truth arrives, the world has often moved on. That gap between perception and reality may be one of the defining challenges of modern public life, not only for celebrities but for anyone whose story becomes public before it is fully understood. As of 2026, Bill Jakapan's future remains uncertain but not closed. His career has changed shape, his audience has changed shape, and his path forward is different from the one he once seemed destined to follow. But history shows that entertainment careers are rarely linear. Some disappear, some reinvent themselves, some return in unexpected ways years later, when time has softened old narratives. Time, after all, is the great editor of reputations. And sometimes, it writes endings no one could have predicted. And that's the full story as it stands today. Legal victories, lingering controversies, and a career still in transition. The conversation around Bill Jakapan is far from over, and the way audiences respond in the coming years may shape what happens next. Because in the end, fame is not just about talent or scandal. It's about memory, and whether people are willing to rewrite it. I'll see you in the next video.